The California Teachers Association, CTA, and the Institute for Teaching, IFT, present IFT Expo 2015, a series of presentations by IFT grant recipients.
Well, good morning, still morning. My name is Bev Bricker. I am immediate past president of Palm Springs Teachers Association, and my grant took a little bit different tact because I was a full-time release president. I got $9,000 from IFT, and then my CTA staff person worked with me to get an additional $3,500 because of the success of the program. So that was kind of a good thing. Just to give you some background on Palm Springs, we have over 85% of our students who are on free and reduced lunch. Palm Springs might sound very glamorous, but we serve the children of our service industry workers. So we have parents who are working 2 and 3 jobs trying to make ends meet. It's a fun place to live, but it can be difficult. I was president, lucky me, during the recession. So Palm Springs, when I stepped in, we had 1,275 members. When I left office, we had lost over 300, which was devastating to our workforce. It was devastating to my budget and lots of other things, but more so in Palm Springs, we are divided by the I-10 freeway. You have the really good places to work in Palm Springs, and then you have those, oh, really, I don't want to work there. All of our new teachers worked there and were laid off year after year after year. In those really difficult schools to work in, as you would imagine, they're difficult because you don't have parent involvement. The parents don't have time, don't know what to do. They're terrified of school because probably they weren't the best students. So school's not a really safe place to be. So my morale for my teachers was low. I couldn't ask them to keep doing things for PSTA. So what I wanted to do was take a backdoor approach in helping my teachers. As it worked out, I am a CTA State Council member on the Language Acquisition Committee and sat through a presentation in our committee from Maria Casada from CABE, California Association of Bilingual Educators. She had developed a research-driven program to train parents, Project to Inspire. In fact, I left my little folder over there, but I've got a table in the big room when we have lunch. I've got lots of her folders to share with you. The Project to Inspire program was intriguing to me because it dealt with taking that appreciative inquiry approach, looking at the parents of the funds of knowledge that they bring, as opposed to why aren't they involved, but understanding they come with a wealth of information. We just need to make school feel more comfortable and to help them feel equipped to deal with what we do in school. So about that time, I also heard an IFT grant. You know, you should be submitting your grants. And I thought, by teachers for teachers, maybe this one isn't quite so intimidating of writing a grant. So I gave it a try, and it worked. Part of what Project to Inspire does, which is what intrigued me, is they take that positive approach. They go in that community learning theory, and they really want to support what the parents do from a parent standpoint. But they would also, in their research and in their proven documentation, they had generated those high levels of parent involvement in schools, which I knew is what my teachers were wanting as well. So it became this perfect fit of what can I do at this time to reach out. So my grant, originally written for 35 parents, that grew in our second round, so that's why I had to get more money from CTA. We had 34 people graduate. They completed 36 hours. Those 36 hours were in 3-hour chunks, about every other week at our PSTA office, which we had just purchased as well. The recession was great, so there were the property values made it an impossible thing to pass up, but now I had this huge building and we weren't using it. So I thought this will be perfect. It was an infringement upon my schedule as a full-time release president to make sure I was always in the office on those Fridays, but the benefit of doing that was just, it's still astounding to me. I arranged for food. That was part of what our grant covered. The grant from IFT covered mostly what the CABE costs were. I got my executive board to say, sure, we'll kick in food and we'll pay for the for one of our parents, or spouses, I should say, of one of our members to do the child care. So we provided child care for the parents. We targeted pre-K parents because if I was going to put all this work into it, I wanted to benefit for 12 years of having the parents be with us. So the parents came. One of them, as you see, she had to leave after week 8 because darn, she had a baby, but she was so thrilled to be a part of what we were doing. So the woman standing here is the trainer. I knew my limitations. I don't know Spanish. I didn't know how to reach out to the parents. So I used CABE's trainer and materials to come in and train. The parents in the room, except for that far table, that's a family, but all the others did not know each other. They were from 5 different schools, preschools, the Head Start program in our Palm Springs proper area. They had never worked, they didn't have a good feeling about school, those kind of things. Many of them had not even graduated from school. We got them involved in paper, pencil, crayons, markers. They were blown away because they'd never done this before, and it hadn't occurred to them to do this with their own children. But we got them to create graphic organizers and images of what it means to be involved with your children. I have some of their quotes that they left from the feedback that we got each week. They were focused in attending for those 3 hours, and many of them did not rush out after those 3 hours. They hung around and talked and developed friendships from what we have created with them here. Wow, that one went fast, but that's okay. They work together in different groups each week. They are now meeting, and in fact they invited me to a Christmas party last year, still using the PSTA office, and they created, one woman had purchased all of this, she has all the flatware, plates, dishes, everything you would need for a wedding reception, and she donates it to women who can't afford to have a catered meal. So, I mean, this is just the giving kind of people that they are. CABE brought in books that were in Spanish so that they could read with their kids. They dove in and just had a blast, developed lifelong friendships. These parents have now formed a CABE chapter in Palm Springs. They did it all on their own. We just facilitated it. They have a voice. They're making a change. I truly expected that the change wouldn't happen for 2 years. You know, everything seems to go so slow with kids. Within 2 months, there was a change. The parents were reporting differences in their children's attitude, in what their spouses were talking about. In fact, now we have fathers who are attending, but it changed everyone's attitude about why school is important and why I need to be involved with my children. One of the things that it did also do is now we have parents who are serving on school site councils. We have parents who are pushing the district, because we have a high second language learner population, to make sure that they are served. And it just serendipitous that it correlated with the LCAP, and we have to reach out to our high population of second language learners. So now this is written into our LCAP. I did not ever dream that this would be sustainable from a PSTA standpoint, but from a district standpoint. So my whole goal in doing this was to get parents who were trained who could then reach out and train other parents. So I made this presentation to our administrators and said, we've gone through a graduation ceremony. We have parents who are ready to work with you. These parents, many of them did not graduate from high school, have never completed anything, and when I said we're going to have a graduation, they got together, made the costumes, found them, did whatever they needed to do, came to the office after hours and practiced. They were so thrilled to represent their culture. They had, our room was packed. I thought it would just be them, right? They brought in entire families. They brought everybody to see them graduate. We were lucky enough to have Eric come. Jose Acala is my district CTA district manager. Next to him is our superintendent, and then the man in the red shirt is a school board member, president, who came. The 2 women on each side of him were from CABE. The director and past director, actually, Maria Casada is the one on the far right or far left. who wrote the program. So we had the parents go through, shaking hands, going all the way down. They were thrilled to be a part of this. It was an accomplishment for them. To be able to graduate, they had to videotape themselves presenting. These were women who were afraid to talk to anybody. They had to videotape themselves presenting one of the modules, because what we were doing was trainer of trainers. We wanted them to reach out to other schools. My presentation to principals was, you can have CABE materials and a free trainer for $650 to train your parents. We now have parents working in over 10 schools. We have 25 schools. In over 10 schools in the district, the parents are going out and recruiting other parents and having their own graduation ceremonies that they are holding. It's just been interesting to see how they are empowered. What the parents have shared with us is that now, and I do have to tell you that as a teacher, I wanted parents involved on my terms, right? And the parents sometimes have a different agenda. But through this training, it is not about becoming militant. It is not about pushing your own agenda, but really furthering what happens in the schools and working for your own children, but finding your voice. And so the training emphasizes, you don't walk in with attitude. You don't walk in making people feel defensive. You walk in and reach for answers and become involved. So the parents are meeting with principals. They're sharing the concerns that they have of what they see for lack of services for their children and what they can do better. Plus, we've helped them. The second bullet, I asked my manager at work to speak to me in English. So they are finding a voice not just for their children, but for themselves. One of the women that was a part of this was a grandma. She came with her daughter-in-law, or 3 daughters-in-law and her own daughter. And Grandma found her voice when the daughters would say, hey mom, will you babysit? And she's like, no, I have activities I'm involved in. She stepped out of her comfort zone and pushed herself. So we were developing the parents in so many other ways. As I shared with you, I really didn't expect that we would see changes so immediately, but the parents, the 37-year-old brother, went back to school just because of the changes that they saw in their moms, in their sisters, in their wives. The children changed. We had one little boy who kicked and screamed every day, didn't want to go to school. Mom, because of this program, found a way to help him understand how important school was. So he was motivated to go to school. We now have husbands who are involved in those 10 schools, fewer, but they're growing. Understanding that it's important for their children to see them making the change. So my goal for this was to support my teachers, to give them the support through the parents in their classrooms. I also wanted it to become district-wide. Since I was full-time release president, I had that big view of the whole district. So I wanted to provide trainers for as many sites as possible, and that's now expanding. The parents, we trained them in only levels 2 and 3. And if you get the folder from the table, you'll see CABE has it broken down. The parents can train other parents at level 1. We started them at 2 and 3 to become trainer of trainers. Now each of my Palm Springs sites can use them. And this was kind of, we had PK. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that other parent training program. It is very, very expensive and it has to use their trainers, but I thought this was more valuable because it used homegrown people and they could try on those connections that they had with each other. So we took our picture at the end with everyone. They were so thrilled to finally be recognized for for this accomplishment. And it drove them on to do more. And as I said, they've now developed their own CABE chapter in Palm Springs, completely parent-driven. They even, in November, held a one-day parent conference, much like this. They decided, I'm going to teach about this, you teach about that, and they had invited other parents, working with the district EL coordinator, but the parents were the driving force to train other parents. So it's kind of blossomed from there, all because of this weird connection of hearing of the idea from Maria Casada and seeing the grant and just experiencing what could, diving in to see what could happen. That's my story, and I appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Learn more about the Institute for Teaching and its commitment to strength-based teacher-driven change at www.teacherdrivenchange.org and follow us on Twitter @CTAIFT.